am a senior citizen, and I am of the age that some young people like to call dinosaurs, and it's certainly not meant as a compliment. However, I can smile at that because I am well aware that the world I was born into is really quite different than the world we live in now. Now, I'm not of the Ice Age, but I am of the Iceman age, meaning we had an Iceman. In the Great Depression, when I was a child, we didn't have a refrigerator. Most people did not. So we depended on an Iceman to deliver ice to us 3 times a week. And the way that worked, the housewife or house person would put a cardboard sign in the window with a number indicating the number of pounds of ice that was desired for that day. And my mother usually put 25, which meant 3 times a week we got 25 pounds of ice. And the nice Iceman would use big tongs and carry it straight up into our kitchen for us. And that's the way. Our Iceman was a wonderful old African-American gentleman who over years became our friend. And we looked forward to seeing him come because he was very kind to us. He had an ice wagon drawn by an old nag of a horse named Cheerio, and they had been a team for years and years. And as Cheerio got older, Mr. John no longer rode in the wagon, but he would walk alongside Cheerio and hold his bridle and talk softly to him. And he would say, "We're almost through, old buddy. We can do this, old buddy. We're coming to the end, old buddy." When he stopped in front of our house, he would throw a big tarpaulin back, and using his ice pick, he would chip away 25 pounds, a 25-pound chunk for my mother. And when he did that, ice chips would fly in all directions. And that kind man would let us gather those up to munch on as a treat. Now, it wasn't as good as good humor, but it was cool and refreshing, and we clamored for every chip. As one day after the delivery, we had our chips, and so we were following along. We were allowed to go 2 blocks, and then we had to turn and come back. So we had gone 2 blocks, and we had stopped and turned toward home. And then we heard this desperate whinny. It was just frightening. And we could hear Mr. John screaming, "Oh no, oh no." Well, we were curious, and curious kids just won't be denied. So we turned and headed back toward the commotion. And we were horrified when we saw that Cheerio had fallen in the street and broken his leg, and a bone was protruding. It was horrifying. I still remember it all these years later. About that time, a policeman appeared, and he started yelling at us, "Scram, you kids, go home. You don't belong here. Go home." And we started to back away, but it was just such a compelling scene that we just kind of backed, and then he screamed at us again, "I said, go home." So we started toward home, and we had gone just a short distance, and we heard a gunshot, and we knew what had happened, and we knew why the policeman had sent us home. So we rushed home to tell our mother about this traumatic thing that had happened. It was a very, very bad day. The next week, our Iceman was a yellow-haired young man driving a pickup truck. He was not friendly, and we didn't dare approach that pickup truck. Something had changed that we really hadn't wanted to change. Mr. John died a short time after that, likely unaware that he had gladdened the hearts of so many little barefoot ragamuffin children. But I think that he would smile if he knew that over 75 years later, I'm talking about his kindness. And I think that's a wonderful legacy.